Seat of the Triumvirate is a returning dungeon coming from Legion into World of Warcraft Midnight. In this Mythic guide, we're going to go over the 4 bosses, as well as any noticeable trash, to help you clear this dungeon effectively in the Mythic difficulty. As always, for routes, I recommend going to something like Keystone Guru, where it's going to show you what packs to pull and what route to take at a week-by-week basis. I'm just going to go over details that you need to understand to effectively clear out these trash packs. At the start, we're just clearing out this main room, taking out all the mobs that have chains going into the void circle in the center. These chain mobs are going to put blue circles and yellow arrows on players' heads that cause them to pulse damage. Make sure your group spreads out and stays out of everybody's circle. Some of the mobs are going to rush out to a faraway player, so make sure you stay close to the tank to keep the mobs grouped up for easy AoE. The boss is Zuraal the Ascended. Void Slash is a tank mechanic that you're just going to want to use a minor defensive for to help yourself survive. Decimate will channel onto one player, putting a blue circle on them. At the end of that cast, he'll leap to that target, slam down on the ground, and create a void puddle at that location. He'll pick a random target and begin casting Null Palm towards them. All players need to sidestep out of this cone effect. Oozing Slam does big damage and puts a dot on all players. Then it's going to summon several oozes around the room. Pick these things up and pull them up against the other pools on the ground. When they die, they'll leave a pool behind them, and you're slowly going to run out of space. If you kill these things in dumb spots, you're going to run out of space way faster. He casts Crashing Void at 100 energy. This is going to do big damage to all players and knock you backwards. Make sure you don't get knocked back into any of the pools or mobs around the outside of the room. Rotate through those abilities, and that's everything you need to know. After taking this boss down, Alleria will ask you to follow her. She'll open up a new path, and in this new location, there's 4 void rifts that your group needs to go and take out. Plan your route accordingly so you can grab up nearby mobs, get some of your percent, and clear out these void rifts. Dodge blue circles and deal with the constant pulsing of the wardens. This is a little bit to heal through. You're dealing with a lot of the same mobs as before, but make sure to be interrupting piercing screeches and shadowmans, while staying out of everybody's blue circles. Saprish and his 2 pets are the next boss in the dungeon. Shadewing is going to cast Dread Screech, which needs to be interrupted at priority. Dark Fang will jump around, putting a Shadow Pounce on players, giving them a bleed that healers have to deal with. Several blue circles are going to appear on the ground, and then become floaty blue orbs. Stay away from these, and make sure not to touch them throughout the fight. You'll put blue circles around multiple players. Move around to overlap as many orbs as you can with your blue circle. At the end of this effect, it'll detonate, destroying all of the orbs within players' circles. After that, he'll cast Overload, detonating all remaining circles on the field. This is a big explosion of damage, and puts a stacking debuff on all players for every orb destroyed by this effect. You need as many orbs removed as possible before this effect goes off to make sure you survive the incoming damage. Every orb not destroyed also gives you a stacking debuff, increasing shadow damage taken, making the rest of the encounter way harder. Is occasionally going to cast Rending Void on the tank, a big chunk of damage that you should use a minor defensive cooldown to survive. Just keep detonating those bombs, making sure as few of them go off as possible to take down Saprish. The next set of mobs mark players with blue circles. After delay, launches all players within the circle in the air. Make sure you don't get launched by more than one circle. They also do a massive cleave in front of them, doing huge damage, and all players have to move out of the way. At the same time, the smaller creatures are going to cast a fear mechanic that needs to be interrupted. It's a huge priority to interrupt these fears because the cleaves are going to hit any player that can't move. Viceroy Nezhar is going to be channeling into this door at the end of the pathway. You want to be at about 86.5% before you get to the Viceroy's room. Usually aiming for 87 or 88 before getting in here, and that'll be enough to finish off your percent. Grab all mobs in the area and AoE them down to initiate the boss fight. Constantly be dodging the orbs that pulsate around the room, and avoid these blue star effects that will pulse out even more of those orbs, while interrupting as many umbral bolts as you can. Once all mobs are cleared out, the Viceroy fight starts. It does a Mind Blast that needs to be interrupted. If it's not, it's going to deal a massive amount of shadow damage to the tank and likely take them down. Some of those blue star effects are going to go on the ground. After delay, they'll send out orbs that players have to avoid. Mass Void Infusion channels into multiple players, and the healer just has to be able to deal with this amount of damage on multiple people. Stand in defensive cooldowns if possible to help your healers out. He's going to summon multiple umbral tentacles that begin channeling into players. The team needs to quickly swap to and burn down all these tentacles to stop the incoming damage. Repulse is a long cast that at the end will knock all players back and then begin shoving you away from the boss. You need to run back in towards the boss as shadows coalesce around the outside of the room. Collapsing Void will begin pulsing damage to all players that have not managed to get close to the boss. And with that, you should be able to take down the Viceroy. Run down the hallway to the last boss, a little bit of RP will play, and it's time to fight Alleria, the corrupted Void Naru. She'll cast these notes of despair around the room, pull her into the area that's going to be safe, avoiding the pulsing damage from each of these notes. Make sure there's room to move around, as the boss is going to begin disintegrate. 3 beams appear around her, and your team has to rotate around, avoiding the beams and avoiding the notes for unnecessary damage. Discordant beams will go on multiple players, putting a red arrow on your head. You need to point these beams at each of the different notes around the room to destroy them. Coordinate out which notes you're going to take out, and make sure each beam hits a separate note. After this, Grim Chorus will create a big purple circle around every remaining note, doing massive damage to any players at the end of the cast. Find the intersections that are safe based off which notes you destroyed, and hang out waiting for the damage to go out. A Grim Chorus will begin, causing all notes in the room to pulse AoE damage and a stacking debuff on all players. This will stack up really quickly if you don't manage to take out notes with your different beams. She'll begin casting Symphony of Eternal Night, attempting to kill all players. At this point, Alleria enters into the fight and will blast her with a powerful attack, stunning her and making her take increased damage. On higher difficulties, this is where you're going to want to lust to take advantage of the amp state. At the end of the stun state, she'll do a backlash, hitting all players for big damage and knocking them back, entering back into phase 1 of the fight and starting it all over. Rotate through her phases, blast as many notes as you can, and take down Alleria, clearing out the seat of the Triumvirate. I hope this guide helped you out. I'm Zesty Fresh from Zaza Games, and we'll catch you guys next time.